what does it feel like to be an all-girl band?
It's like, how do I know?
Yeah, like it's like, but like what are they trying to get at? What do they mean? What does that mean? And when you're asking like a 16-year-old girl, what is it like? Like you want us to be like, hey, we freeze our bras at night, and like we do like pillow fights and ha ha ha.
What's going on? This is Tori Kravitz, and welcome back to She's with the Band here on KNOTFEST. I am joined by Morgan, Mercedes, and Tara of Kittie. How are y'all doing?
Hello, we're good.
I've joined the band. We all got the leather jacket memo today.
Yeah, exactly. We did.
Yeah.
I feel like my intuition was they're all gonna wear leather jackets.
Oh yeah, of course.
You're that cool.
Thank you. I mean, it's the jacket that makes it cool.
Yeah.
Cooler, I think.
Yeah, I feel like not as cool without the jacket, for sure.
I mean, I beg to differ, but I do think there's just something in the way I walk once you
Yeah.
throw this on. It just changes everything.
For sure.
But this is such a nice surprise because so I'm out in LA, which first of all, that's weird in itself. And then like a few days ago, I just randomly got the email that you all were going to be in town at the same time. And I was like, I don't care when or where or how, I have to see you all.
Yes.
Like I was so excited.
Yeah.
So what brings you into town? It's like you're doing a lot of press and all of that, right?
Yeah, that's mainly it. We're just here for a couple of days to, do a bunch of different things, some magazine stuff, some radio stuff. We're here to see you.
Yes. And by the time this episode comes out, you will have announced the album as well.
Yes.
Fire, which is, I've already gotten an early listen and it is so exciting. So we're gonna talk about it a bit.
Okay. Okay.
But I know you're also, some of us are going to hear it a bit early. And how does it feel just getting back in like the press swing of things over an album? You haven't done this in 13 years. So
I know.
You know what? A lot of the people that we have talked to in the last couple days, we know them. So and we've known them for years. Like we've done interviews before. We were talking to our pal George yesterday. We've known him for like 25 years. Like there's just like it's kind of like we're just seeing everybody again. So it's like we're just having a good conversation.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's like such a wonderful thing about having been in the industry for so long is you're just comfortable. And even though it is work, you're still just seeing friends and catching up. And I even, you're reuniting with, of course, industry people, a lot of the press and even bands that you've played with in the past. I know you've mentioned like Cold Chamber, Papa Roach in our last interview that you'd seen at festivals, and you're recognizing fans in the crowd that used to come to your shows so long ago. So how does it feel to like, I don't know. It must be one of those, look how far we've come, look how much has changed, but how much has stayed the same. I mean, how are you all feeling just seeing everyone again?
There's a tear to my eye. Oh, no, you know what? Like, it's just so fantastic to be able to experience this again as a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and obviously just we're so excited to have this second chance. I think this has been really important for our souls.
Yeah. I feel like I have a tear now. Yeah.
No crying in baseball.
It really was so exciting when that Eyes Wide Open video came out because it just felt like a second chance. Like, oh my God, they're back. And it almost seemed like all of the wisdom and experience that you had was culminating to that moment of that video. At least the way I saw it as like a fan who's been watching.
I mean, going into this whole process, personally, I was like, well, I hope people still care. Like, I hope that they'll like it.
And wasn't that an understatement?
Yeah. But I think it's been a long time coming. And like over the last decade or so, we've slowly sort of gathered this momentum and fans and, people in the industry, calling for a return.
Yeah.
And so I guess it was just like the right opportunity. Things fell into place very organically the way that they should for it to be right. It wasn't forced or anything like that. It was just like one thing after another, and here we are. And all we can do is put our best foot forward and or boot.
Yeah. We also all got the boot memo.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't get the lace-up boot memo, but
your boots are cool nonetheless.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're magic. They're like magic looking boots.
They're kicking boots.
Yeah.
They got a good point. Yeah. Good crotch kickers.
Yeah.
You need that out here in LA.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Seriously, I forgot. It's like the Wild West out here, literally out in the West. It's crazy. But, you know, obviously, to even remotely try to compare my experience to you all in any ways, like chaotic behavior. But sometimes I think finding common ground is a way to, I don't know, just understand a situation better. And like, I took 2 years out of journalism and left for a little while. And every day was like pining to get back into it, like completely left the music industry. So I feel like in that way, now coming back, I just appreciate it in a different way. Like it just completely changed the way I view my work. So in what ways did being away for 13 years and now putting the pieces together of an album cycle all over again, how are you seeing it differently?
It's a lot different this time. It feels like previously we worked so hard and we grinded so hard. And now it's almost like, it's hard to say this, but like, we're surprised that everything keeps working out, sort of. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that whole thing, it worked. And then the next thing, oh my God, it worked. Whereas before we were like uphill battle all the time, it felt like. And now this is a very new experience for us where everything just feels like it's falling into place so naturally and we're not pushing it. It's just like, all right, here we go. This is actually happening for us and we're able to, and everyone's asking for it, which is very nice.
Yes.
Because we may have
Asking
mildly,
or begging.
yeah, mildly overstayed our welcome for a little bit.
Yeah.
Before 13 years ago.
Why do you feel that way? That's an interesting take.
Because we just kept touring and touring and touring. We really felt like we had to, and we were stuck in the album cycle loop. Like the, make your record, go tour the hell out of it, go home, right? Do another record, da-da-da-da-da. And it just felt like very repetitive with no growth. And so that's when we were like, all right, guys, not unsustainable. Let's put it to bed for a little bit.
It's so true. I actually rewatched like the documentary that you all did that's on YouTube. And it was like, I was even blown away. I'm like, they're going album, tour, member shakeup, tour, album. And I'm just like, that for a creative, that's got to be such a crazy hustle. And then to have to keep one-upping yourself with every album, I would find that really tiring.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, during, I guess the last two albums, like we definitely were in a good groove where, I think, like we created great music. We were just sort of in this cycle where, it got, I don't want to say it was like no longer fun, but it kind of, like I think the music that we did was great. We did a lot of touring, but at the same time, it was like Tara said, like there was no growth. Like the amount of people that were showing up would, diminish a little more. We were doing a lot of van tours, and like, it can weigh on your psyche, I think.
Totally.
Sort of being stuck in that loop. We certainly were like live we were like a well-oiled machine. Like we would roll out of bed without shoes and get on the stage.
There were some pretty funny years.
Yeah, we had some eras.
Wait,
for
why,
sure.
why no shoes?
Oh
What's
my
going on
God,
with
because
that?
we were gross and did not care.
What she said.
Like honestly though, like thinking back like to that time period, like I now understand like kind of why we were like, man, let's not do this anymore. Because even though we were having fun with each other, and I feel like those experiences brought us closer together as like friends.
Yeah.
I feel like it became a do or die situation, and it really made it aspects of it not fun. Because we were playing to put food on the table. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a difficult thing to comprehend. It's basically playing for dinner. So in that way it kind of does get a little bit like, there's something's got to give, man. Like,
and especially compared to the mindset you must have had when you first started as teenagers, and you were just doing it for fun and because you loved music. And at that point, it wasn't that necessity because you weren't like full blown adults yet. Yeah. So like that shift must have been like, oh, what you started it for and how it ended up at the great.
We had to stop to realize that, or at least I don't know. That's true for me. I don't know about you two, but we had to stop and then turn around and reflect because we were in it so much, like for so many years, that I didn't really realize how drastic the slide was or where we had landed until we stopped. And then I was like, oh yeah, when you really compare, like when I first started with you guys in 2005, it was quite a different experience that we were having. And like Mercedes said, like, very important that we were having a lot of fun playing together. Like we were still very tight and close, and it probably did bring us closer together going through these experiences. But it was much different, and for me it took reflection.
And when you are just go constantly and always moving forward, how do you ever look back? Because you're just trying to keep going forward. But I really love what you said about how now it feels like it's all just unraveling in almost a seamless way, because I feel like that is the number one indicator that you're doing the right thing and you're in the right place and it's all meant to be. Maybe that's a little too like woo-woo guru energy, but
it does feel that way though. It really does. It's like one thing after another has just been like, wow, like, everything with Sumerian and with working with Nick Raskulenix and, having Josh Wilbur mix the album and just everything. Like, it just, this dream scenarios just keep unveiling themselves.
It's true, and I don't want to say we're certainly not like negative mindset people, but it's just from our previous experience. We're like, where's the hook? Where's the hook? And it's like, so far everything just keeps working out.
I do have a theory about that, and the theory is that from 2005 basically on, we did the work and for what's happening now, basically. So it took 13 years for everything to pay off and all of the shit that we ended up going through and like the rough times. It took 13 years for it to pay off. So
I think you were in it for the long haul. I'll tell you that.
That's actually a really good observation, because it is true. Like, I mean, we've been reflecting on this quite a lot recently, but it is kind of crazy what playing together is like for us. It's like the four of us are so locked in, and we've all played with other musicians, and we can all play whatever. But when we're together, it is actually, like, personally a very unreal experience to be like, wow, it just like locks immediately. That's and it like Mercedes said, it's from, I mean, we did it for a very long time. And so we are connected, and we cannot disconnect. Musically, it's awesome.
Well, this is such an interesting observation too, why you're saying it took 13 years to get to this point, because I imagine having the beauty of time and the opportunity to even reflect, because I mean, over your discography prior to Fire, like, there was so much evolution and experimentation, and every album was a bit different, and you must have learned so much along the way through the years before the break. So how do you think having the time and the wisdom changed your perspective, even in the way you wanted to approach the new album? Because, having listened to it, it seems like just the most realized and pure and confident version of Kittie I've maybe ever heard.
Wow.
Honestly, it felt just like, damn, they're back. Like, whoa.
Well, I mean, sometimes you need to step away in order to reflect, like Tara was saying, like, to be able to see things as a whole and then take some of that and reinvent yourself and recreate. And I mean, I think in those 13 years, we all, went our own separate ways musically, which I think can sometimes be beneficial as well, learning things on your own. And then when you have that experience outside of, making music with Kittie, that's something new that you can bring to the table.
True. What aspects of that, sorry to cut you off, but like, what aspects of each of your musical endeavors that you did during the break did you bring into this new album then that made it a bit different?
For me, I can say that working with Montreal band Car Chaos helped me vocally to find a new voice, and write in a different way. So in that band, I'm just singing, not also thinking about guitar and how that sort of plays into things. And in working on an album with them, something clicked, something changed, and I was able to bring some of that experience into writing melodies for Kittie, and that sort of thing, which I think has somehow elevated it. I don't know.
I think so. I mean, I noticed your singing right away.
Yeah,
and it's really good.
Thank you. Well, and you know, like for the few people that I have played the album for as well, like I've gotten feedback like, well, I've never heard your voice quite sound like that before, and I think that's a cool thing. It's good. I mean, something's working. So yeah, I think we've all sort of brought a little bit of something else to it, but also I think, you know, the time away, being able to reflect, sort of looking at the best parts of Kittie, you know, and being able to say, well, like, you know, these are the ideas and concepts that we want to sort of bring into who we are, because I think it's important to acknowledge, you know, all of the different Kitties that we've been over the years.
All the different breeds, if you will.
Exactly. You know,
Sure, I'll take
version and all that. So yeah, like in going into like the album, as far as like writing and concepts and things like that, like my ideas were like, you know, for some of these riffs and song ideas, I'd like to sort of marry some of those ideas, like, you know, past versions of Kittie with who we are now, to create something new, I guess.
You put that kind of perfectly, because I think that's exactly what I mean by the most realized version of Kittie, because I can kind of see, you know, you've taken the best parts of everything you've done before and put it in this. Yeah. And obviously it sounds modern, it sounds new. It doesn't sound like you're trying to do anything from your past either.
Right. Yeah, I think sometimes you have to kind of look to the past to find the future. I don't know, maybe.
That's a quote somewhere.
Sure.
It is now.
Sure. And I think, you know, there are things that we have done in the past, like in different, on some of our different records. I feel like, you know, there are things that are really cool. And I think, and of course there's things that aren't cool. And we didn't nod to those. So, but I feel like, you know, taking, I went back and I listened to all of the records except for Spit, because I don't want to. Because I already know what that sounds like. Just kidding. No, I listened to it. I'm making a joke. But I went back and I was like, oh, you know what? That's really cool. And, you know, when we were writing this record, there were things that I was like, hey, do you remember this song? And could we do something like that? Or like, hey, let's put a harmonic, like a
natural harmonic.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a fucking shitty guitar player.
You know, really, I thought you were the best guitarist in the band.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. Oof. I play guitar in a band and I'm not a good guitar player. I will like admit that. But yeah, like there was just like little things that I was like, you know what? We haven't done this in a long time. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, we'd always, and it turned out well. I think there's definitely like a little pieces of everything in there, and then there's a lot of growth in that as well. So.
And what's interesting is like you're saying, how you've pulled these little Easter eggs from old music, so it'll be like fan service to people who've been around this whole time, but at the same time, I imagine with social media and the way things have just blown up, you're also getting a whole new young fan base who will also be able to enjoy this record because of the modern aspect of it too. So that's kind of interesting to think about.
For sure. And like the thing that I don't think that this record is necessarily like modern metal production. I wouldn't call it that. I would call it like it sounds modern. It sounds great, but you can tell that we're actually like a band, which I find sometimes with some of the more modern metal productions that are out there, it's just kind of everything kind of sounds.
Not throwing synths in the album.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say.
No, man.
No shade. However, I stand by that statement,
man. You know, like I feel like if we can't reproduce it live, we're not going to do it, right?
Yeah, sorry. Go.
Oh,
I didn't want to cut you off. I was just gonna extend on Mercedes' thought. Like the band is what it is. We are like a 4-piece. That's all you're ever gonna hear live. No tracks. So to stick to put an instrument that just doesn't exist in the band just doesn't make sense. I understand why it makes sense to a lot of bands. It just doesn't to us.
No.
Yes. No tracks and no men behind the stage playing your guitars for you.
Yes.
Despite what people want to think.
I know.
I think that's like an old rumor now. I would hope that we've all gotten past that now. But
I honestly, I feel like we should hire like female guitar techs only,
Right.
Just for that,
Like,
so
well,
they
they're
can't
not
be like,
playing
well,
them
there's men.
either. Who's playing
yeah,
them?
do people really think that that's what's going on with your guitar techs? That's crazy.
Yeah, no, we've had
Someone
people
asked one time.
Yeah, we've had people ask before.
I hate that.
You
I
know
hate
what?
that
The
for
human
you.
race, you
What
know.
are you gonna do?
Well, you know, this is actually something I wanted to ask about because I don't know. I just started getting all like deep in my thoughts about it. And I was like, everybody asks what you think, but not how you feel about all this. Because I know when you all started out really young, you were never like, we are a female band. It was just you were playing with who you knew, and that's what it ended up being. And so just through all of the press and the stories that have come out, you've turned into like this femme spokesperson band. Is that something that you feel like excited to talk about? Because it gets asked in every single interview. I'm even guilty of it last time. And I'm like, but is that what you want to be? Or do you just want to exist as a band?
Well, I mean, we do just want to exist as a band, but we also realize now in our adult brains that representation is very important.
Totally.
And, you know, being able to, you know, represent women in metal, you know, help to carve a path for others, like that's super important. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like I just think that you know, when we were young, I just don't think we understood what being a feminist meant. And like, you know, it was always sort of put in a bad light, you know, and if, you know, it was men though, like being like, oh, you guys are a bunch of man-hating feminists, and then we were like, we're not. But it's like, I mean, even just who we, you know, our mere existence was in defiance of all of those, you know, constructs and those sorts of things. It's just we didn't really realize the impact that would have on the music industry and ourselves and, you know, women in the future and that sort of thing. So, you know, we were just oblivious to how important some of the things that we were doing back then were. But now I think we can, with all of that time and experience behind us, we're able to see that a bit more clearly now. And happy to be like,
the evolution of the internet, it's right in our faces. We're receiving the messages. It is really nice. It is something that we take a lot of pride in. But yeah, we are very, like, we do want to be respected as musicians for being musicians and for a band, for being a band. But yes, it is something that I agree with. It just makes us so proud to be able to receive those messages of like, I started playing drums because of Mercedes. I started, you know, my friends and I have a band now because of you guys. It's really cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, that's why I asked the question, because like you're saying, it was sort of put on you before you claimed it. And I was like, this is a really interesting dynamic. And of course it is so important. And that's why this podcast even exists. But, you know, there is that conversation of, you know, some women just want to be like, I'm just a musician, you know, I don't need a label on it. And then some people are really open to it. And I was like, no one's ever asked Kittie how they feel about all this.
Well, I mean, like, especially when we were young, like it just got tiring. You know what I mean? Like, because the way that people would position the questions, like, what does it feel like to be an all-girl band?
It's like, how do I know?
Yeah, like, it's like, but like, what are they trying to get at? What do they mean? What does that mean? And when you're asking like a 16-year-old girl, what is it like? Like, you want us to be like, hey, we freeze our bras at night, and you know, like we do like pillow fights and ha ha ha,
and all
freeze our bras.
Yeah, like isn't that like a
what the fuck?
Yeah, like girl
sleepover, like
girl
trick,
sleepover,
you know,
yeah.
you freeze.
Just imagining feathers flying everywhere
I
in
know.
the tour bus.
That reminds me of something that gave me PTSD.
Like all three of us were like,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But like, I just don't know what that was supposed to mean. And like, it was such a focus and something that just got so overdone and so tiring that we were just like,
we don't know what it's like to not be women in the band. So we can't compare the two experiences. I can tell you we can tell you the differences of like what our peers seem to be experiencing, but we really don't know, and we can't feel that. Those are facts, right? So like,
all we know is
if
the
you
guys
ask us
aren't
how
getting
it
asked the
feels,
question.
you know, it just feels like we're doing something that we were meant to do.
I feel like that, like any good journalist should be asking men that same question. Like, hey, what's it like? What's it like being a dude and playing music, man?
I would love to know the answer.
I would too. They'd be like, it's like having a dick.
and playing an instrument.
Yeah, with my penis.
I think they wanted to hear a little drama.
Oh,
And
I
I think
think so.
the
Yeah.
question
We're
was always
fighting all the
laced in
time.
like,
Or like,
I get my period today.
yeah, well, we're all synced up. Next question. No. But like there isn't there isn't any. Like we'd be on tour and we like obviously tour's hard. It's emotionally trying sometimes, but we were like in it together and tight as a crew, right? And then like another band we'd be on tour with would be like punching each other in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that are supposed to be the hysterical, emotional,
Men are
and like
way more dysfunctional than us.
We're hanging out together having a great time.
yeah, I've never hit my band before, but I know.
But we watched it happen.
We've
to
watched
other
it like pretty
bands,
much every
wow.
night on every tour, man. Just dudes punching each other in the face.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's just go be friends.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is so funny. I'm so glad we're kind of like turning this on its head. And I would like to think, at least now in your comeback, that the conversation is a little more nuanced and interesting than what is it like
Yeah.
to
And
grow
no
in a band.
punching.
Yeah.
And still no punching.
Still no punching.
Damn, we could change that right now if you guys want. We could time to brawl. We could put this whole
the
setup
jello.
away.
I'd have to take my shoes off.
Oh yeah, those are. Well, I mean, you know what? You could do some damage with those.
No, nobody wants that.
No, I'm joking.
Drag the Jello pool in here.
Let me put my onesie on.
Yeah.
This is what all the men have been hoping for this whole time,
this
and
is-
we'll never give it to you.
Right.
But okay, well, back to the music. Sorry, I totally derailed this conversation.
That's fine.
But I do want to talk about Eyes Wide Open because, man, that made a splash. And it is still all over my Instagram feed. Over and over, which I love. I never want it to go away. But it was such a impactful return song, impactful music video. The visuals were just like big. But why did you choose that as the first impression off the album and the to set really the tone of what Kittie's return was going to look like?
Well, I feel like that song is probably one of the heavier songs on the album. I wouldn't say the heaviest, but it is one of the heavier songs on the album. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's one of the first songs that we actually wrote as well. And we felt like we needed to come back swinging. You did. And that was one of the songs that we kind of were like, you know what? I think this is going to be very impactful, and we wanted to make sure that we gave the fans something that they've been waiting for a really long time. I mean, if we released, I don't know, another song from the record, I'm not sure if it, or like one of the more like singy songs, for instance. Mm-hmm. I don't think it would have had as much impact, and it would have had impact, but I feel like giving the fans exactly what they needed. First, that core fan base, they want Morgan sounding scary AF. They want guitar solos. They want heavy guitar riffs. And I think we succeeded in that. And for a first single, I think we definitely succeeded with scaring the pants off some folks.
You dodged any comments that could have been, we want heavier music. This isn't heavy enough. No one can say that.
Yeah.
No.
For sure.
Nope. That's true.
But but we're good at that kind of music, though. I feel like we write that style of music very well, like a good like mid tempo, like you and your bandmates go punch each other in the parking lot kind of music.
Yeah.
That's a soundtrack to every band that I've ever seen do that.
I'm waiting for the Instagram reels in response to this of men punching each other.
Yes.
Like,
Oh my God.
can we make that a trend? Like,
Yeah.
can that be a thing?
Let's see it.
Yeah,
Let's see your punches.
can't wait.
2 Eyes Wide Open, though. You have to use that as the soundtrack.
Yes. And the thing is, I mean, speaking of social media, 13 years, a lot has changed in that landscape since you
For sure.
you came and whatever, came back. Have you all found it interesting the way you're getting to speak to fans now, and even the way music discovery is happening? Has it kind of shifted things around for you?
Yeah, I mean, we've always been very connected to our fans. Like, like even the MySpace days. We were.
Let's go.
I know, right? But I find that nowadays, like the music discovery aspect of things online is really interesting to me. Like, like a super young generation. You know, TikTok, you know, songs going viral, people discovering Kittie that way. I find that to be a really interesting. I mean, I sound like an old person. It's a bit puzzling, but it's cool that, you know, people are discovering the music that way. But yeah, we've always tried to be like very accessible and sort of in touch. And like, if you write us on like Instagram, say like, and we are going to reply, it's going to be us.
Yeah, it's going to be one of us.
I emailed y'all to do the first interview, and then you responded.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? I was like, oh, it's Morgan. Yeah. Because I was like, oh, she runs their band account. I was surprised. Yeah. You are very hands-on, all of you.
Oh, we very much are. We've always had our fingers in all of the things going on with the band. It's we've always been very much in control of all aspects of things. So yeah, it's cool.
And are you all finding new music on Instagram and on Spotify and all these things now? How in
finding
touch are
new
you all
music?
feeling
Oh
with
my
metal
God!
right now.
I'm like stuck in the 70s always.
Respect.
Yeah.
No, no. I find every once in a while, like I find something that I'm like, oh man, that's good.
Yeah, I've been targeted a couple cool bands.
Yeah.
But,
Not so much Instagram though.
Yeah,
I feel like
not
the
as much.
Spotify algorithm usually gets it right.
Yeah.
Which clearly there's a reason.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
That is true.
I as far as like social media, like I like the aspect of like finding new bands with women in them and then being like follow them just to be like, oh, and like kind of check things out, and like I don't know, it just feels nice to be supportive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
It's also so cool how like connected we all are.
Yeah.
Like I mean, we haven't even met Nita in person, and we're all pals. And there's like, I mean, we could just list them, but we're all so connected, and I think it is such a cool tool to bring us together and to have people who like perhaps in the past would have pit us against each other and be like, you're a heavy band, smash. But we're actually like, no, we really support each other, and that's an excellent tool for
And
that.
I suppose social media is a great way to control that narrative where you
Yes.
couldn't do that
You're like,
before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's actually a really great point. Like,
Yeah, that was definitely like a journalist thing though that they used to do all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's pit these two female bands together
there
or
can only
whatever.
be one woman in heavy metal.
Yeah.
So go and fight it all out.
In the Jello.
I know.
Yeah.
Call back.
Oh my fucking god. Anyway, I wish there was only one man in heavy metal. Rob Halford.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
what a
the best
dream, what a
one.
dream.
Good choice.
Highly recommend reading that book, by the way, if you get a chance.
I haven't done
Yeah.
that.
It is so good. Morgan and I were listening to it on the way on our flight, and I love him. I love him.
That's so good. Well, on my list now. Thank you.
Yes.
But yeah, and I also want to ask, since you mentioned Nita, did when the comeback was kind of announced, did you get a lot of outreach from newer artists who were showing excitement about it, where you got to kind of connect with new people?
Yeah, and old as well. Like I got a text from Elisa. She was like, "You
Yeah.
made my
Oh,
year."
she took the time to text all of us individually. She's such a sweet woman.
Yeah.
She's
rad.
Yeah, the comments too on Instagram. Like I'm like, oh, that person, the singer from Escula Grinder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They
Katarina?
sent, they left us a comment that was like, alrighty then, basically, like, oh damn.
Yeah.
There was Brian from Shadows Fall. Like we had so many cool comments on that. I think it's really nice too that is.
It's really cool. It's a cross genre too. I think Princess Nokia was also left a comment.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, okay.
That's all right.
And that's so fun because that's like that immediate response is something you wouldn't have gotten in the beginning of the band.
No.
So like it must be a totally different feeling to see all that.
Yeah. I don't know. It makes me super happy because it's like, you know, the support that we're giving to other women, we're also receiving it as well. You know, like I saw like Maria Brink was like,
Christina from Lacuna Coil.
Yeah, like it was just like
humans.
all the best people, all these wonderful, talented women. We're all just like in a big group hug. Like, yeah, go girl.
I like how I mentioned Brian from Shadows Fall. Like he was a woman in metal.
I mean,
He's got beautiful hair.
Yeah,
he
to be
does.
fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
Sorry, Brian.
Look, we respect the respectful men around here too. We're not haters. Again, for clarification.
Yeah.
And I want to ask too about the album artwork. So the Fire album artwork is really striking. I thought it was really cool. Is there like a story behind the design there?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Like, it seems like throughout all of the songs and like the themes, there's sort of like almost like a character sort of being built. And a lot of the themes are, surrounding like rebirth and fire, obviously, because this is kind of like a rebirth. And there's a lot of sort of the like witch trial kind of imagery and those sorts of things. And the album cover is sort of indicative of that. It's like a woman who has been through that experience, but she's actually overcoming the fire itself. So born again in it, but also, empowered by it.
I love that. I hadn't even like considered. I mean, it's so like in your face, but at the same time, and it makes so much sense, obviously, with where you're at in your career. That's beautiful. I love it. And there, in the Eyes Wide Open press release, there was a quote. I'm going to read it verbatim because I just thought it was so lovely. It said, "You inspired a generation of musicians to break barriers and defy expectations." Which is obviously, I think, very true. If you want to play humble, that's fine. But I know it to be true. And even the way that you brought Bring Me the Horizon on tour early in their career, in this moment early in their career, like you all really kind of made opportunities for women in metal before they even existed. And I feel like that's some serious character building. It's got to be. So do you find that your experience of the trials and challenges that you went through when you were younger, of building that path, has impacted your mindset in other facets of your life, whether it's your career, outside of it, and your determination and, I don't know, mindset in general?
Yeah, I think it's made us really resilient.
I think that's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah,
I would say that. But also, I don't know. I mean, you can, like, we're sitting here talking and having a laugh about a lot of really deep things. We also have a really good sense of humor about stuff, I think. Sometimes that's all you can do in a situation when it's a not great situation. So those are sort of...
Are we all laughing as we think about our trauma?
That's a trauma response.
I was giggling because I'm going to point out our nationality because we are all Canadian and we will. You don't have to beat us down. We will do it to ourselves. Don't worry. And we are a band who has been thoroughly sent through the meat grinder, and we're still like, we're good.
Yeah. I think we came out on the other side, like, and surprisingly normal too, right? Considering.
Say surprisingly. I'm like,
yeah. Like, I feel like,
I suppose like what you went through, a lot of people could come out of that a little messed up.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, especially that, like, the early stuff as well, like being as young as we were. Like, people forget that, like, we were that young, and like some of the things that people were saying, like the early days of the internet, people like harassing and saying awful things about us, and all the weird angles of the journalism, and sexualizing us when we were underage, and like all that stuff. And like, a lot of people get a little weird about that. But
you almost have had really cool parents.
Yes.
So I even did my first tour when I was 18, and my mom didn't tell me till years later that she was freaking out, like losing her mind about it. So like, how were your parents so cool with it, so young, with everything that you were going through?
I think that my parents just really wanted to make sure that we had life experiences beyond, just being a normie. And I think that they were like, oh, well, they could always just like go back to school, or, if this doesn't work out, or, and I think specifically, like, I know my dad, he didn't have supportive parents. So, because he always told me, he was like, I always wanted to play the drums, but I wasn't allowed.
Wow.
So
he changed the narrative, like didn't perpetuate the same path.
Of course.
That's beautiful.
You have to break the cycle.
Break the cycle. Yeah. I love that so much. And that's really wonderful. And another thing, I think this is kind of the last question, which I'm excited to ask, because I was listening to an interview you and SJ did for Consequence. It was about Kitty Pig. It's not sponsored, but drink Kitty Pig. But you were talking about that. But at the time, you were talking to Ann Erickson about age, came up briefly, and I was like, oh, we got to talk about that a little more, because it's so important, because this goes beyond entertainment. Pretty much any woman who's a professional gets told that there's an expiration date, and obviously
they don't always say it.
Well, they don't say that.
It's
Well,
just
no one says
you
it to your face.
expired, but they don't let you. They just stop calling.
Yeah, they'll stop calling, or they're just kind of like making snide comments. It's that underlying tone. We know that to be false, considering how incredibly, I don't know, refined you are in your craft now. And I think most women, as age and time goes on, that's what happens. But how do you feel that the discourse around Kittie has changed, and how do you feel about it from when you were younger, being like having to prove your place, to now you're being treated as like these iconic veterans that you are? But that's a shift.
I mean, like, I feel like we're not really that old to begin with.
You're
so.
not, but like for the music industry, people, they have that wrong perception.
Of course, yeah. I think the cool thing is people, like when I read comments and stuff, they usually say things like, "Oh, they haven't aged a day. I'll take that." You know,
we even said that before the camera started rolling, before the record.
Yeah, I'll take it. But I mean, it's hard because, you know, like all we ever wanted was to be taken seriously. And I feel like we finally maybe achieved that. And it's I feel like this is like, wow, like if 16-year-old Mercedes could be like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It happened. It's real. It only took us almost 30 years.
Yeah. Well, I think as well, like, you know, like, there are aspects of society that have changed as well. You know, like it does feel like it's a more welcoming space for women in metal, and there is a lot more inclusivity. So that I think certainly helps.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't like this when we started.
It feels like it has taken a long time for the world, for the industry, for, you know, fans and people to sort of catch up with everything that Kittie means and everything that sort of encompasses like the music and what we stand for, you know, what we represent. And I don't think, you know, 25 years ago or so that the world was quite ready, and that it's taken this long to sort of, you know, digest all of that. And we've come out on the other side where we are still going, we're still defiant, and people are now applauding that.
Yeah.
And they're, I guess it's a reward. I don't know.
I think it's also a result of women occupying all the roles now. So like you mentioned SJ. She's also a producer. You are a woman, and you are asking us these questions that have been put through a female filter, right? And so like previously there wasn't as many women in power or calling the shots. They did not know the experience, right? So they did ask the goofy question. The men did sometimes ask the goofy questions because they don't have the same experiences as us. So some of the times, like, it's kind of a silly question to us, but they legitimately don't know better because they don't have our experience. But there's women driving these forces. There's like, you know, it's obviously not just music. A lot of actors talk about their expiration date, but now there's so many more women directors, and the casting people are often women, and so it's that shift has also really helped us because the angles are much different as well.
Point.
Yeah. And
and we can kind of advocate for ourselves now because we're in a place to
100%. Yeah. And that has really added to the like evolution and the growth of, I mean, we are very lucky that we still want to do this now because previously it was what a different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing the trauma laugh again.
Yeah.
The trauma laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it too now.
Yeah.
I know, it's fine. But it's just further proof of why everything is happening as seamlessly as it is, and every step of the way leading up to Fire has been what it is, because it's the right time. It's the right time for your message and who you are, and you have all the people in your corner. So
thank you, world, for catching up.
yeah, about time.
Yeah.
Happy to see you here. Is there anything else you guys want to say about the album? I mean, now that it's been announced.
Go listen, because it's awesome. That's it.
Yes. Well, I concur. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank
This
you.
has been such a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to finally be like in person together
Yes.
after that little Zoom convo
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year. And everybody watching, first of all, you all know Kittie. I don't need to tell you to go check out Kittie, but you should if you haven't already. And make sure you're staying tuned here on KNOTFEST to the She's with the Band podcast every other week. Subscribe, comment, review, all the things. It helps us out so much. And we'll catch you next time. Bye, y'all.